Good Saturday morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it if you will. Like, share, comment on the post, and then if you want to follow along, we will be in the book of Galatians, First Thessalonians chapter 1, verse number 2. In Galatians long enough, I guess I got it stuck in my head. Paul's going to launch right into, and he really did in the first verse, is digging right into telling this church uh, what they should be doing, how they should behave, the actions they should be involved in, the ministries, the things they should be working on. And so he says in verse 2, he says, "We give thanks to God always for all of you, constantly mentioning you in our prayers." And so Paul is modeling here again uh, the proper attitude of the church, and that is an attitude of prayer. And excuse me, extreme. I think most of us uh, would acknowledge that. I think most church folks, most believers would acknowledge the importance of prayer and tell you that it's an important thing, and then go out and not really practice it. But Paul says here that he was constantly mentioning them in prayer. So prayer wasn't just something that Paul was talking about. Prayer was something that Paul was involved in, something he was practicing and routinely using in his life. He recognized that the importance of prayer, that prayer is the conduit, prayer is the method, the way that God has chosen to interact with his people, chosen to bless his people, chosen to move on behalf of his people. I would say that it would be next to impossible to find in the history of the church any great movement of the Spirit of God among His people or for His people that wasn't just bathed in prayer, that didn't spring out of and come from a healthy um, practice and respect for prayer. And again, God has chosen that and uses that as a way to interact and with and on behalf of His people. And again, it's just a matter of communication. It's basic um, basic logic of warfare, and we're described as being in warfare. That you take a group, a military group, and you separate them. You cut off their communication. You cut them off from being able to communicate with command, and that group's in trouble. And so it's imperative of us that we practice this thing called prayer. Not enough just to talk about it and to say that it's a good thing, but to actually be involved. And one of the things that Paul mentions here as well that I think is equally important is Paul says mentioning you in prayer. And to me, what I see in that is Paul being very specific in his prayer life, not just praying, Lord bless the church, but I believe he was calling out people's names, calling out specific situations, and in his prayer life. And and we're going to see him list some of those things as we move on through this first chapter. But as we wrap up here today, just let me encourage you to move prayer from something beyond what is just talked about. What we sing about prayer, we sing songs like "Sweet Hour of Prayer" and just a little talk with Jesus, and no telling how many songs have been written about prayer and sermons preached on prayer. But as you know, in another way of saying, it's time to get out of the classroom and take it to the field and actually put prayer into practice. Pray for each other. Call them by name. Pray for your church. Call out. Don't just say bless my church. Call out specific needs in your church. That God would bless and use you in making those things happen. So let's see if we can adopt maybe a little uh, more practice of prayer and a little bit less of preaching about prayer. All right. You have a good day. We'll see you here Monday morning.